The Gabriel Cromer collection is considered to be among the most important collections of early photography in the world, and the most extensive collection of early French photographic materials outside of France. This vast collection consists of more than 4,000 objects and has been referred to as a museum inside the Eastman Museum, a celebrated repository of images, documents, and objects which chronicle the central role of French photographers and inventors in the early evolution of the photographic medium. The collection arrived in the United States in 1939 when the Eastman Kodak Company purchased it from Cromer's widow. It has long been known as one of the foundational collections within the museum's holdings, as the materials arrived at the museum in 1949, just 2 years after the museum was founded. The materials were formally donated to the Eastman Museum by the Kodak Company in 1972. Although there has been great awareness of the existence and significance of this collection, until recently it has been unexplored and somewhat inaccessible. With grant support from the Institute for Museum and Library Services, museum staff have worked to fully catalog and image the collection, making it accessible online and easily findable for upcoming exhibition projects. The Gabriel Cromer collection is representative of the practice of daguerreotypy in France and includes examples by some of the medium's most distinguished early practitioners. Notably, it has a portrait of an artist by the medium's inventor, Louis-Jacques Daguerre. Other examples within the collection include works by Jean-Baptiste Sabatier-Blot, Louis-Jules Dubosc, Baron Jean-Baptiste Louis Gros, and Frederick von Martens. Also included are works by talented amateurs and by commercial studios. The Gabriel Cromer collection is a wonderful resource for the exploration of photography, the medium's history, its significance, and its most important applications.
The daguerreotype process was announced in 1839 in France, and it produces highly detailed, one-of-a-kind photographs. To make a daguerreotype, a silver-plated copper sheet is first polished to a mirror-like finish, then sensitized with iodine and possibly bromine vapors. It is exposed in a camera, developed in mercury fumes, and fixed with sodium thiosulfate. Except for the earliest daguerreotypes, the image is finally toned with gold chloride solution and then washed and dried.
Daguerreotypes are extremely vulnerable to both chemical deterioration, such as tarnishing and various corrosion spots, and physical deterioration, including abrasions and scratches. Fingerprints can cause both chemical and physical deterioration. Because of this, daguerreotypes should always be housed under a protective cover glass to protect them from exposure to their surroundings. The housing materials and methods used to protect them, as well as the storage and exhibition conditions, should be carefully considered. When we are working on daguerreotypes here in the museum's conservation lab, we always start by thoroughly examining and documenting their condition. For that, we typically use a stereo microscope, and besides a written report, we take photographs and photomicrographs through the microscope to record various condition issues. It is very common that the original cover glass appears dirty, but is actually showing signs of deterioration. Sometimes that deterioration can be so advanced that simple cleaning is no longer an option and the glass needs to be replaced. Similarly, the original binding or other parts of the packaging are usually long gone or adversely altered so that it no longer protects the daguerreotype the way it might once have done.
Our ultimate goal is to provide the daguerreotypes in the Cromer and in the other museum collections with an uncompromised preservation environment. If the cover glass needs to be replaced, we use either borosilicate or chemically strengthened glass, such as Gorilla Glass in our cell phones for the new glazing, and chemically inert non-hygroscopic materials, so materials that do not readily take up and retain moisture for the rest of the packaging. However, replacing a reverse-painted cover glass, typical for French daguerreotypes, presents an additional challenge. That's when a secondary glazing, a reproduction of the original cover glass placed on top of the new primary glazing, might be a viable and attractive solution.
In the US, daguerreotypes were most commonly housed in this style of hinged case, usually with a brass mat and preserver. However, as we can see from examples in the Cromer collection, French daguerreotypes were more commonly displayed under a decorative reverse-painted cover glass or a paper passepartout and hung on the wall, either inside of a frame or from a small ring on the back of the plate. In the Cromer collection, we have some wonderful examples of these original housings, some of which are simple and elegant, such as this beautiful panorama, and others which are quite elaborate and decorative, with layers that include both reverse-painted glass and paper elements like the gold bevel on this portrait. While we would always prefer to exhibit these daguerreotypes with their original cover glass and frame, in some cases these are either missing or they've deteriorated so severely that they may need to be replaced temporarily for exhibition. As a preparator, my goal is to preserve the daguerreotypes while they're on display, while still referencing original styles of matting and framing. To achieve this, we can prepare reproduction reverse-painted glazing when the original passepartouts are missing or heavily deteriorated. We also select custom frames that reference styles used during the time period. Using both passepartouts and frames that reference historic styles provides important context for these unique objects and enhances the overall aesthetic experience for museum visitors. To make the reproduction reverse-painted glazing, first we create a mask. This can either be done by machine cutting removable vinyl or by carefully hand cutting into the protective barrier film on the Optium acrylic. After the mask is created, the paint for the accent lines is applied. The accent line colors we will be using are gold for the oval and black for the rectangular windows. Once the paint for the accent lines has dried, the part of the mask for the background color can be removed. In these examples, we will be using a black background with our gold accent lines and a white background with our black accent lines. The background color is then applied and allowed to dry. After the first coat of background paint has dried, a second coat can be applied to even out the background color and fill in any thin areas. Once the paint is fully dried, we then cover the painted area with mylar or polyester tape to avoid the possibility of paint sticking to the cover glass of the plate. A backing board with a sink keeps the finished plate centered in the window. This is then framed for exhibition.